My name is Ella Washington, and I was 32 years old when I realized that in my family, ownership only mattered until someone else decided they needed it more. A week after I paid off my condo, my younger sister showed up and told me it wasn't really mine anymore. The letter from the bank arrived on a Thursday morning. Plain envelope, nothing fancy, just a line of text stating my mortgage was paid in full. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I sat on the edge of my couch, rereading it until my eyes blurred, half expecting the words to change if I looked away. I taped it to the fridge with a cow-shaped magnet I'd had since college. It felt like the biggest win of my life, though part of me didn't fully trust it yet. Like if I relaxed too much, someone would say it was a mistake. The condo itself wasn't impressive. 2 bedrooms in Chicago, old appliances, floors that squeaked in the same spots every night, almost as if they were reminding me they had been here longer than I had. The second bedroom was half storage, half office. My solution, because I worked from home and couldn't afford a proper office when I bought it 5 years earlier. But it was mine. Every dent, every shortcut, every cheap fix told the story of how hard I had worked to get there. I skipped vacations, drove an old car, learned to fix leaky sinks from YouTube instead of hiring plumbers. While my friends went out on weekends, I took freelance jobs and food delivery shifts. When they posted beach photos, I counted grocery receipts. For years, this condo was my finish line. So, when my sister Natalie appeared unannounced that Tuesday, carrying a giant iced coffee like she owned the place, I thought maybe she was here to congratulate me. That was my first mistake. She didn't greet me. She didn't wait for an invitation. She walked past me, looking around like she was inspecting a rental. She peeked into the second bedroom, the bathroom, even my small office closet. "This place is bigger than I remember," she said, hands on her hips. Thanks," I replied. She nodded as if confirming something in her mind. Then she turned to me. "We've agreed this should be a family place now." I blinked. "Excuse me?" She repeated it slowly, as if I was missing the obvious. "Mom and Dad think it makes sense? You don't really need all this space." I laughed, sharp and awkward. "You're joking." Natalie didn't smile. "Mark's hours got cut. Daycare is expensive, and you're just here alone. It's kind of selfish to keep all this space to yourself." Selfish. That word hit harder than anything else she'd said. I looked around, wondering if she saw something I didn't. A hidden ballroom? An extra wing? "Natalie," I said slowly, "this isn't a family home. I bought it. I paid for it." She waved her hand dismissively. "Come on. You don't even use the second bedroom. We'll move in, and you can find something smaller. You'll be fine." She spoke like announcing the weather. "We'll need to be in by the end of next month," she added, already sipping her coffee. "That should give you enough time." I just stood there. I'd heard my family say wild things before, but this was new. This wasn't borrowing money or asking favors. This was erasing me entirely. "You already talked to Mom and Dad?" I asked. "Of course," she said. "They agree. It's best for everyone." "And what do they think I'm going to do?" I asked. "Just leave?" She sighed like I was being dramatic. "You'll understand once you have kids." I laughed again, this time bitterly. "You don't get to decide that," I said. "You're not moving in here." Natalie paused at the door, hand on the knob. She gave me the smile she used when she assumed things would go her way. "We've already talked to Mom and Dad," she repeated, then left. I stayed in the living room long after the door closed, listening to the fridge groan. My eyes drifted back to the mortgage letter. For a moment, I wondered if I'd imagined it all. I hadn't. That night, I couldn't focus on work. My mind kept looping the same words, family place. As if my years of sacrifice didn't matter. As if DNA gave them ownership over my life. I called my boyfriend Caleb and told him everything. He listened quietly, didn't interrupt, didn't try to soften it. "That's not normal," he said finally. "Ella, that's not okay." I had spent my life thinking this was normal. Natalie was 4 years younger, the golden child. Teachers loved her. Neighbors praised her. When she forgot assignments, my parents said she was overwhelmed. When I got a B instead of an A, they asked what I'd done wrong. I mowed lawns while she focused on school. My parents paid for her camps, lessons, and prom dress, while telling me money was tight when my car needed repairs. When she attended a private university with a tuition that made my stomach drop, my parents co-signed her loans without hesitation. I went to a state school on scholarships and part-time jobs, working early mornings and late nights to stay afloat. When I bought the condo, Natalie came by once, walked through, wrinkled her nose, and said, "It's cozy. I could never live somewhere like this, but good for you." That comment stuck with me. Fast forward. Natalie married Mark, a nice guy, quiet, a middle school science teacher. They rented a newer 3-bedroom apartment with a gym and rooftop deck, everything my condo wasn't. Then they had a baby. Daycare costs hit. Mark's hours were cut. Natalie quit her part-time job. Suddenly, my condo wasn't small anymore. The calls began the next morning. First Mom, her sweet voice masking disappointment. Then Dad, same message, different tone. Family helps family. You have more than you need. Think of the baby. By lunchtime, a distant aunt texted, acting like we'd always been close. That evening, sitting on my couch staring at my phone, I realized something had shifted. This wasn't about sharing. This was about control. For the first time, I felt a hardness in my chest. I wasn't a kid anymore. I didn't live under their roof. I paid my own bills. I owned my home. And I wasn't giving it up. Not this time. Sunday dinner had always been their preferred tool. Never called an argument, never called a confrontation, just dinner. Garlic bread, lasagna, polite smiles stretched tight across faces that already knew how the night would end. So when Mom called Friday afternoon and said, "Everyone will be there, we'll talk calmly," I knew exactly what she meant. Calmly meant together. Together meant outnumbered. Still, I said yes. Not because I wanted to go, but to hear it spoken aloud. I wanted to see how far they were willing to push. By Sunday, my phone hadn't stopped buzzing for 2 days. Natalie sent long texts about how it was temporary, family sacrifices, and how Mark had made a spreadsheet to show the numbers. Dad left voicemails reminding me to see the big picture. Mom kept saying, "You're being tense." By afternoon, my nerves felt like live wires. Caleb offered to come with me. I shook my head. "Not yet," I said. "I need to do this myself." My parents' house looked exactly the same. Peeling wallpaper in the hallway, the sagging couch Dad refused to replace. Walking in felt like stepping backward in time. The table was set when I arrived. Natalie and Mark sat together, a united front. Natalie rested her hand on a thick folder. Mark stared at the table, memorizing the grain. My parents hovered in the kitchen, exchanging glances. "Hey," I said. Natalie smiled, too brightly, perfect timing. "We're just about to eat," she said. The food barely had time to cool before she began. "We only need the condo for a year," she said softly, as if offering a gift. "Maybe less." "A year?" I repeated. "Well, depending," she added quickly. "Once we get back on our feet." She slid the folder toward me. Mark cleared his throat. We worked out a plan. Budget, timeline. I opened it. Pages of numbers, charts, neat columns. Rent listed as 0, utilities cut in half. No HOA fees, no maintenance, no repairs, as if the condo ran on good intentions. "You'd cover utilities?" I asked. Natalie nodded. "Obviously, that's it," Mom said. "Honey, it's temporary. Think of the baby. She needs her own room." I looked at Natalie. "You rent a 3-bedroom now. It's too expensive?" "Then get a smaller place," she said flatly. Her smile tightened. "Why uproot everything when you have space just sitting there unused?" I felt my jaw clench. "Because it's my home." Dad set down his fork like he was delivering wisdom from a mountaintop. "This is about family working together. You have the room. They have the need. Common sense." I tapped the folder. "You wrote this like I already agreed." Silence. Natalie finally said, "We figured you'd be reasonable once you saw the numbers." I flipped to the lease page I'd printed earlier and slipped it into the folder without her noticing. "I looked up your lease," I said calmly. Natalie froze. "What?" "It's public," I said. 3 months rent penalty for early termination, right?" Mark shifted. Natalie's face flushed. "That's none of your business." "You're making it my business," I replied. "You want to move into my home to avoid penalties on yours. Be honest." Mom frowned. "Is that true?" Natalie snapped. "We just need a fresh start." "Then be honest about that," I said. "Don't pretend it's about fairness." Mark finally spoke, low voice. "We're just trying to find a solution that works for everyone." "For everyone?" I echoed. "Or for you?" He didn't answer. Natalie's voice rose. "You don't even use the 2nd bedroom. It's just sitting there while we're drowning." "And whose fault is that?" I asked quietly. She slammed her hand on the table. "We're family." "Family also respects boundaries," I said. You don't get to decide my home isn't mine because of your financial choices. Dad sighed. Let's calm down. No, I said, standing. You all came here ready to guilt me into giving up my home. I'm not doing it. Natalie's voice shook. So you'd rather see us homeless? You're not homeless, I said. You have a lease. You have options, just not mine. I grabbed my jacket. Thanks for dinner. Good luck with the lease. No one stopped me. The text started before I got home. Natalie, we can still work this out. Mom, family comes first. Dad, disappointed. I didn't reply. A week passed. Then one night after work, I noticed scratches near my lock. Small, easy to miss, but I'd lived there 5 years. I knew every mark on that door. My stomach dropped. The next day, I upgraded the deadbolt and installed 2 cameras, one in the hallway, one inside. For 2 nights, nothing happened. On the 3rd night, my phone buzzed at 2:37 a.m., motion detected. I opened the app. Natalie stood outside my door, hood up, a screwdriver glinting in her hand. In that moment, I realized this wasn't about family anymore. This was entitlement, and it was about to get ugly. The vibration rattling my nightstand woke me, sharp, urgent. I squinted at the screen. Motion detected at your door. My brain tried to rationalize it. A neighbor, someone drunk, the building settling. Then I opened the camera feed. Grainy, black and white, but unmistakable. Natalie. Hood low, hair shoved to the sides, shoulders hunched. In her right hand, something metallic caught the hallway light as she worked on my lock. My chest tightened like the air had been sucked out. I hit record. My hands shook, but my movements felt calm, automatic. I slid out of bed, stayed low, and dialed 911. Someone's trying to break into my condo. I whispered, I have video. The dispatcher asked for my address, told me to stay inside, and said officers were nearby. On the screen, Natalie worked the lock like she expected it to give, like she thought I wasn't home. The hallway lights flicked on automatically. She froze for a second, glanced over her shoulder, then returned to the lock. I felt something inside me crack. Not anger, not fear. Something colder. Denial snapping into place. This wasn't desperation. This was entitlement. Footsteps appeared on the camera feed, 2 officers moving quickly down the hallway. Natalie didn't see them until they were almost on top of her. Ma'am, step back from the door. She jumped, spun, stammering. I forgot my keys. This is my sister's place. I stayed behind the door until an officer knocked and identified himself. When I opened it, my legs felt weak. I held up my phone, still recording. That's her, I said. That's my sister, and that's a screwdriver. The officer watched the playback. Natalie's face drained of color. They asked for ID. She tried to laugh it off. It's a misunderstanding. I said nothing. I didn't need to. They cuffed her in the hallway. I wasn't smug. I wasn't relieved. Just exhausted, like my body was 10 steps behind my brain. One officer stayed with me to take my statement. The other walked Natalie down the hall, wrists red against the cuffs. 5 minutes later, Mark came running down the hallway in sweatpants, hair sticking up, panic all over his face. What's going on? He asked, breathless. She tried to break in, I said flatly. He looked at the officer, then at Natalie. She thought she still had a spare. I never gave her one, I said. Mark rubbed his face. He didn't argue after that, just muttered something about calling a lawyer and followed them out. When the door closed and the hallway went quiet, I locked the deadbolt and leaned against it, staring at nothing. The cameras kept recording long after everything stopped. The next morning, I called off work for a few hours. I wanted everything documented before the story could be rewritten. At the police station, I handed over the footage. They pulled the 911 audio, gave me a case number, and told me the video made the situation straightforward. When I got home, I backed everything up twice. I backed up the footage twice. Once to a thumb drive, once to a cloud folder with a password I'd never used before. I printed the incident report and slid it into the same folder as my mortgage papers. Ownership met protection. By noon, my phone was blowing up. Mom called first. How could you do this to your sister? She demanded. She tried to break into my home at 2 a.m., I said. You didn't have to call the police, Mom snapped. She had a screwdriver in my lock, I replied. What exactly was I supposed to do? Family handles things privately, she said. Does privately mean pretending it didn't happen? I asked. She didn't answer. Dad called an hour later. She made a mistake, he said. Don't ruin her life over this. I was asleep in my own home, I said. I'm not apologizing for protecting it. He muttered something about me being cold. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. Texts poured in from relatives who hadn't checked on me in years. She didn't mean it. Drop the charges. She has a baby. I ignored them all. 2 days later, I found something else. Court records are public if you know where to look. Natalie had a small fraud charge from 5 years earlier, deferred sentence, probation, fine paid. Not dramatic, but not nothing either. This time, the judge had little patience. She pled guilty, served a short sentence, 3 months, and ended up with a permanent record. Mark texted me while she was inside. Long message. Stress, bills, daycare, life moving too fast. She was just trying to keep a roof over our kids' heads, he wrote. I read it twice, saved it, and didn't respond. Their finances unraveled quickly after that. Lease penalty, short-term rental at higher rates, Mark carrying everything on a teacher's salary, while Natalie couldn't find work with a record. 3 months later, Mom told me they'd moved in with her and Dad. That's between you and them, I said. She didn't like that answer. A month after Natalie got out, Dad stopped by my condo to drop off mail that had gone to their house by mistake. He looked older, tired. Your sister's having a rough time, he said quietly. She made her choices, I replied. She says you hate her. I don't hate her, I said. I'm just done being the person everyone leans on while calling me selfish. He didn't argue, just nodded, handed me the mail, and left. Life returned to normal faster than I expected. Work, gym, fixing the sticky window I'd ignored for years, painting the hallway wall properly this time. Quiet. Later, Mom told me Natalie wanted to clear the air. I agreed on one condition. My home was off the table. No debates, no surprises. Mom agreed. I didn't know it yet, but that conversation would be the last illusion to fall. The meeting was set for Saturday afternoon at my parents' house. Neutral ground, Mom said, as if that phrase alone could rewind everything that had happened. Natalie was already there when I arrived, sitting at the kitchen table with arms crossed tightly, chin lifted in that familiar way she used when cornered but refusing to show it. Mark sat beside her, shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on the wood grain as if trying to disappear. I took the chair across from them. All right, I said. You wanted to talk. Natalie didn't waste time. You didn't have to call the cops, she said sharply. Family doesn't do that to each other. I looked at her and felt something settle into place. You tried to break into my home at 2:30 in the morning, I said. That wasn't a family conversation. That was a crime. I was desperate, she snapped. You wouldn't listen. You left us no choice. There was a choice, I said. You just didn't like it. She rolled her eyes. Do you have any idea how hard it is with a baby, with bills? We needed help. You wanted a free house, I replied evenly. Mark flinched. Natalie glared at me. We deserved help, she said. You don't have kids. You don't understand what it's like to watch space go to waste while you're drowning. The words hit, but they didn't sink in the way they used to. Space I worked for, I said. Space I paid for while you were calling it small and laughing at it years ago. That was different, she shot back. You're holding on to old stuff, I asked. No, I added. I'm holding on to reality. She leaned forward. You ruined my record. You ruined my life. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You picked up the screwdriver, I said. You showed up at my door. You made that choice, not me. Silence filled the kitchen, thick and uncomfortable. Mark finally spoke, voice low. She just means it didn't have to go this far. It went exactly as far as she pushed it, I said. I'm not carrying that for her. Natalie's hands curled into fists on the table. One day, she said, eyes sharp, you'll need help. Don't expect us to be there. I stood up. Good, I said. That way, everything's clear. She blinked like she hadn't expected that answer. I hope you figure things out, I added, but my home is off limits forever. No debates, no showing up, no surprises. Then I walked out. Mom tried a few more times to pull everyone back together. Family dinners, holidays, neutral conversations. I told her the same thing each time. If my home comes up even once, I'm leaving. Eventually, she stopped asking. Life got quiet. Not lonely, quiet. I settled into a routine that felt like mine for the first time. Work in the mornings, gym in the evenings, weekends fixing things I'd put off for years. I replaced the sticky window, painted the hallway properly instead of patching it, bought cheap plants for the windowsill, and somehow kept them alive. I upgraded my desk chair, mounted a real shelf in the office closet instead of stacking boxes, got rid of the sagging old couch, and bought one that didn't sink in the middle. Little things. Ordinary things. Through the family grapevine, I heard Natalie picked up a part-time job at a daycare. Mark took extra tutoring hours. They eventually found a small, older rental farther from the city, cheaper. Theirs. I didn't reach out, not out of anger, but out of finality. A year later, my condo looked better than ever. Fresh paint on every wall, new locks on both doors, the squeaky floorboard near the bedroom finally fixed after years of promising myself I'd get to it. Sometimes I'd come home after work, lock the deadbolt, and just stand there for a moment, listening to the quiet. No surprise visits, no guilt trips, no phone calls telling me I was selfish. The silence wasn't empty. It was steady. I'd sit on my couch with the TV off, plants catching the afternoon light, and feel the weight of the last year finally lift from my shoulders. Not victory, not revenge, just boundaries that stayed where I put them. And peace. Real peace inside a home that was mine in every way that mattered.